It's 2:47 a.m. You're lying in bed exhausted. Your body aches for sleep. But your mind? Your mind has other plans. Without warning, a memory surfaces, sharp, unwanted, vivid. That argument from 3 years ago. The moment you said something you can't take back. The look on their face. Or maybe it's older. That time you were humiliated in front of everyone. The shame that made your skin crawl. Perhaps it's more recent. A rejection, a failure, a loss. And here's the twisted part. You weren't even thinking about it. You were trying to sleep. Counting sheep. Focusing on your breath. But your brain, your own brain, decided this was the perfect moment to drag you back into the most painful chapter of your life. What? Why does the brain wait until you're vulnerable, exhausted, and alone in the dark to replay your worst memories? Why does it feel like psychological torture precisely when you're seeking rest? Is your mind trying to heal you, or haunt you? Tonight, we're going into the dark science behind this nocturnal ambush. We'll explore the hidden architecture of trauma, the evolutionary ghosts that still control your nervous system, and the terrifying possibility that remembering might actually make the pain worse. Because what's happening at 3 a.m. isn't random. It's a calculated process, millions of years in the making, and understanding it might be the only way to escape it. Let's start with the most unsettling question. Why night? During the day you're functional. Distracted. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, and emotional regulation, is fully online. It acts like a gatekeeper, filtering which memories get attention and which stay buried. Your conscious mind is occupied with tasks, conversations, screens, movement. There's no space for the past to intrude. But when you lie down in the dark, everything changes. Your circadian rhythm, the ancient biological clock that governs sleep-wake cycles, begins its nighttime protocol. Cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps you alert during the day, drops to its lowest levels. Melatonin rises. Your prefrontal cortex starts to power down, entering a state similar to mild intoxication. The gatekeeper falls asleep. And that's when the other parts of your brain wake up. The limbic system, the emotional core of your brain, home to the amygdala and hippocampus, doesn't follow the same schedule. In fact, during certain stages of sleep and the twilight zone just before it, the limbic system becomes more active. It's like a nightclub that only opens after the rational authorities go home. Here's the evolutionary logic. For hundreds of thousands of years, nighttime was the most dangerous time for humans. Predators hunted in darkness. Rival tribes attacked at night. Your ancestors who stayed vigilant after sunset were more likely to survive. So your brain evolved to maintain a threat detection system that doesn't fully shut off. Even now, even in your locked bedroom, even though the saber-toothed tigers are extinct. But here's the cruel irony. Your brain can't distinguish between external threats and internal ones. That memory of humiliation? Your amygdala coded it as a survival threat, a social danger that could lead to ostracism, which in ancestral times meant death. That traumatic breakup? Your brain logged it as an attachment rupture, triggering the same neural circuits as physical pain. These memories carry threat tags. And at night, when your threat detection system is hypersensitive and your rational mind is offline, those tagged memories bubble up automatically. Imagine your mind as a courtroom. During the day, you're the judge. You control the proceedings, decide what evidence is relevant, maintain order. But at night, the judge leaves. And the prosecution, your amygdala, your accumulated emotional wounds, finally gets to present its case without interruption. Every painful memory becomes evidence in a trial where you're both the defendant and the jury, and the charges are always the same. You're not safe. You failed. You're alone. This is why the darkness feels like an ambush. Your brain isn't being cruel. It's being vigilant. It's doing exactly what evolution designed it to do. Scan for threats when you're most vulnerable. The problem is that in the modern world, the threats are no longer outside. They're memories. And unlike a predator you can run from, you can't escape your own mind. So you lie there, heart racing, replaying the moment over and over, each replay sharpening the details, deepening the emotional grooves. And the more you try to push it away, the more insistent it becomes. Because resistance itself signals to your amygdala that this memory is important, which makes it resurface even more aggressively. You're trapped in a loop designed by evolution, tortured by a safety mechanism that no longer serves you. But to understand why this loop is so powerful, why these memories feel so much more intense than regular memories, we need to go deeper into how your brain actually stores emotional pain. Not all memories are created equal. Right now, you probably remember what you had for breakfast this morning. Maybe. It's a weak, factual memory, stored in your hippocampus as context. Time, place, sensory details. If someone asks you about it a week from now, you'll probably struggle to recall it. That's normal. Most experiences fade because they're not important for survival. But now think about a moment of intense fear, shame, or pain. Maybe a car accident, a betrayal, a moment of public humiliation. You don't just remember the facts. You remember how your stomach dropped, the texture of your panic, the exact tone of voice someone used, the way the light looked, the smell in the air. You can recall it with cinematic precision even years later. Why? Because your amygdala hijacked the storage process. Under normal circumstances, memories are encoded collaboratively. Your hippocampus organizes the contextual details, where, when, what happened, while your prefrontal cortex adds meaning and narrative structure. The result is a balanced, integrated memory that fades naturally over time. But when something threatens you, physically, socially, or emotionally, your amygdala takes over. It floods your system with stress hormones: cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. These chemicals act like emotional highlighters telling your brain, "This matters. Remember everything." The memory gets encoded with extreme intensity. But here's the crucial part: it's stored differently. Traumatic memories often bypass the normal integration process. They're fragmented, sensory-heavy, and disconnected from the soothing context that would help you make sense of them. They're not stories, they're raw experience frozen in time. Neuroscientists call these implicit or non-declarative memories. You don't recall them the way you recall facts. They erupt. A sound, a smell, a feeling can trigger the entire emotional state, and suddenly you're not remembering the event, you're re-experiencing it. Your body reacts as if it's happening now. Elevated heart rate, muscle tension, shallow breathing. Your amygdala can't tell the difference between past and present. To your emotional brain, the threat is eternal. This is why painful memories feel so intrusive. They're not passive recollections you choose to think about. They're active, embodied experiences that your brain keeps replaying in an attempt to process them, to extract lessons, identify patterns, prepare you for future threats. But here's the dark twist. Your brain doesn't always know when it's finished processing. Sometimes, instead of resolving the memory, it just keeps rehearsing it like a song stuck on repeat. Each replay strengthens the neural pathway, making the memory more accessible, more vivid, more intrusive. What started as an attempt at healing becomes a self-perpetuating wound. And at night, when your defenses are down, these memories have unrestricted access to your consciousness. You become a captive audience to your own pain, forced to watch the same scenes over and over, each viewing etching them deeper into your brain. There's a term for this in trauma research: the intrusion paradox. The more your brain tries to protect you by replaying the threat, the more it traumatizes you. The cure becomes the poison. Now you might be thinking, but I've heard that sleep is supposed to help with emotional processing. Isn't REM sleep when the brain heals? Yes. And that's where things get even more complicated. Sleep is not a single state. It's a complex cycle of stages, each with distinct neurological signatures and purposes. And when it comes to painful memories, REM sleep, the stage where most dreaming occurs, plays a starring role. But whether it's the hero or the villain depends on how your brain handles the process. REM stands for rapid eye movement, a phase characterized by intense brain activity, temporary muscle paralysis, and vivid, often bizarre dreams. From a neuroscience perspective, REM sleep is when your brain performs emotional maintenance. It's like a psychological repair shop that only opens at night. Here's the theory. During REM sleep, your brain reactivates emotional memories, but in a unique neurochemical environment. Norepinephrine, the stress chemical that's flooding your system during waking trauma, drops to nearly zero. This allows your brain to replay the emotional content of memories without the physiological panic response. It's like watching a horror movie with the volume off. The theory, proposed by neuroscientist Matthew Walker, suggests that this process gradually strips away the emotional charge from painful memories, leaving only the informational content. Over time, you remember what happened, but it stops hurting. This is emotional alchemy, transforming pain into wisdom. And for many memories, this works beautifully. That awkward thing you said at a party? REM sleep processes it, and within days or weeks, it stops making you cringe. The emotional sting fades. You move on. But trauma doesn't follow the rules. When the emotional intensity of a memory is too high, REM sleep can't fully detoxify it in one night, or 2 nights, or 100 nights. Instead, each REM cycle reactivates the memory, and because the emotional intensity is still overwhelming, it gets restored with much of its original pain intact. Your brain keeps trying to process it, but the wound is too deep. The alchemy fails. Worse, for people with PTSD or complex trauma, REM sleep can become actively harmful. Instead of emotional detoxification, they experience emotional re-traumatization. The memories replay in dreams so vividly that the dreamer wakes up in panic, reinforcing the neural pathways of fear. The nightmare becomes another traumatic memory layered on top of the original one. The very mechanism designed to heal them makes them worse. This is REM sleep's double-edged sword. It's supposed to be your brain's therapist, but if the trauma is severe enough, it becomes your brain's torturer. And even if you don't have clinical PTSD, you've probably experienced a milder version of this. You go to bed hoping sleep will give you distance from a painful experience. Instead, you dream about it, or half dream about it in that twilight state between waking and sleeping. You wake up at 3 a.m. and the memory is right there, fresh and vivid, as if your brain's attempt to process it has only made it more present. This raises a disturbing question. Is it possible that trying to process painful memories makes them worse? The answer is yes. And that leads us to one of the most unsettling discoveries in memory research. For most of the 20th century, scientists believed that long-term memories were stable. Once an experience was encoded and consolidated, transferred from short-term to long-term storage, it was fixed like a file saved on a hard drive. Remembering it was just opening the file to read it. The file itself didn't change. But in the late 1990s and early 2000s, researchers discovered something shocking. Every time you recall a memory, it becomes unstable again. It re-enters a fragile state and it must be resaved, a process called reconsolidation. And during that window, the memory can be altered, strengthened, distorted, or even erased. This was revolutionary. It meant that memories aren't static records of the past. They're living, changing constructs that are rewritten every time you remember them. Here's how it works. Let's say you recall a painful breakup. The moment you start thinking about it, your brain retrieves the memory, reactivates the neural network that encodes it. But now it's unlocked, editable. If you recall it in a calm, safe environment and add new perspective, I've grown since then, I understand now that it wasn't all my fault. You can update the memory with that context. When your brain resaves it, it includes the new information. The memory softens. But if you recall it while lying awake at 3 a.m., flooded with anxiety and loneliness, you're recalling it in a threat state. Your amygdala is active, stress hormones are surging, and your body is in fight or flight mode. When your brain reconsolidates the memory this time, it saves it with even more emotional intensity. You've just made the memory worse. This is the reconsolidation curse. The act of remembering trauma, especially in a distressed state, can deepen the trauma. Think about that for a moment. Your brain forces you to replay painful memories at night, precisely when you're most vulnerable, and each replay strengthens the emotional grip those memories have on you. It's not healing. It's a spiral. The more you remember, the harder it becomes to forget. The more you try to make sense of the pain, the more the pain defines you. Psychologists call this rumination, the repetitive, passive focus on negative experiences and emotions. And rumination is one of the strongest predictors of depression and anxiety. It's not just unhelpful, it's actively destructive. Your mind becomes a prison where the bars are made of your own thoughts, and every night you're forced to walk the same cell block. What makes this especially cruel is that you can't just stop remembering. Your brain won't let you. The memories are tagged as unresolved threats, so they keep resurfacing, demanding attention. And each time they surface at night, in the dark, when you're alone and your defenses are down, they reconsolidate with fresh layers of pain. You're caught in a neurological trap. The brain's attempt to protect you by highlighting threats ends up traumatizing you. The brain's attempt to process the trauma by replaying it makes it worse. And the brain's attempt to save the memory after each replay strengthens it. It's a perfect storm of evolutionary design flaws, ancient survival mechanisms that worked brilliantly in a world of predators and scarcity but backfire catastrophically in a world of psychological complexity. So what does this look like in a real human life? Meet Sarah. She's 32, works in marketing, lives alone in a city apartment. Objectively, her life is fine. But every night, around 2 or 3 a.m., she wakes up. And the memory is waiting. It happened 3 years ago. A work presentation that went wrong. She froze in front of the entire executive team, stammered through her slides, saw the disappointment in her boss's eyes. She wasn't fired. She recovered professionally. But that moment, that 5 minutes of public humiliation, has haunted her ever since. At first she thought it would fade. It's just embarrassment, she told herself. Everyone messes up. But instead of fading, the memory got sharper, more intrusive, and it started showing up at night. Now, here's what happens in Sarah's brain each night. 11 p.m., she goes to bed exhausted. Her prefrontal cortex begins to shut down. The gatekeeper is leaving. 1:30 a.m., she enters REM sleep. Her brain, trying to process the day's stresses, begins scanning for unresolved emotional content. It finds the presentation memory, still tagged as high threat because Sarah's amygdala flagged it as a social survival threat. 2:15 a.m., the memory reactivates. In her dream, she's back in the conference room, but this time it's worse. The executives are laughing. She looks down and realizes she's unprepared, maybe even naked. The dream is her brain's attempt to process the shame, but the intensity is overwhelming. She wakes up with her heart pounding. 2:20 a.m., now she's awake and the memory is fully present. Not the dream version, the real one. She replays it again consciously this time. Why did I freeze? Why am I so weak? What do they think of me now? Her cortisol spikes. Her body is in threat mode. And as she lies there replaying the moment over and over, her brain reconsolidates the memory, but now with 3 years of additional shame, self-criticism, and nocturnal anxiety baked in. 3 a.m., she's still awake, ruminating. She tries to push the memory away, but that just makes it stronger. Suppression signals to the amygdala. This is important. Keep it accessible. She won't fall back asleep until after 4 a.m. and she'll wake up exhausted. The next night, it happens again. Over months and years, Sarah's brain has turned a single embarrassing moment into a core trauma. The memory has been replayed, reconsolidated, and strengthened hundreds of times. It's no longer about the presentation. It's about her identity. I'm someone who fails under pressure. I'm someone who can't be trusted. I'm fundamentally flawed. And here's the tragic part. Sarah doesn't have PTSD. She wasn't abused or assaulted. She's just a normal person whose brain has used its evolutionary toolkit, hypervigilance, emotional tagging, REM processing, reconsolidation, to turn a manageable bad experience into a nocturnal nightmare. This is what the dark science looks like in real life. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just a person lying awake at 3 a.m., tortured by their own mind, trapped in a loop they didn't choose and can't escape. And millions of people are experiencing some version of this right now. Tonight. As you read this. So why? Why would evolution design a system this dysfunctional? The answer is both simple and unsettling. Evolution doesn't care about your happiness. It cares about your survival. And in the environment where your brain evolved, psychological suffering was a feature, not a bug. Imagine you're a human living 50,000 years ago. You're nearly killed by a lion at a watering hole. That night, your brain replays the attack over and over. You can't sleep. You're hypervigilant. The memory is agonizing. But here's the thing, that psychological suffering keeps you alive. The next time you approach a watering hole, your amygdala screams a warning. You're cautious. You scan for threats. You don't get complacent. The trauma, as painful as it is, has encoded a life-saving lesson. In that context, a brain that tortures you with painful memories at night is a brain that's doing its job brilliantly. But we don't live in that context anymore. The modern world is psychologically dense. We're bombarded with social threats, status hierarchies, economic pressures, and interpersonal complexities that our ancestors never faced, at least not at this scale or frequency. And our brains, using ancient software, treat every one of these experiences like a potential lion attack. A rejection on a dating app? Social threat. Amygdala flags it. A critical email from your boss? Status threat. Amygdala flags it. An argument with your partner? Attachment threat. Amygdala flags it. And at night, when you're trying to rest, your threat detection system activates, and all of these flagged memories surge to the surface. Your brain is trying to protect you, but there's nothing to protect you from. The threats aren't real. They're psychological ghosts. You're living in a mansion designed for a jungle. And every night, the security system goes off, screaming about dangers that don't exist. This is the evolutionary trap. The same mechanisms that kept your ancestors alive are now keeping you awake, anxious, and imprisoned by your past. But understanding this doesn't automatically free you from it. Knowledge isn't a cure. The loop continues. So what do you do when your own brain is your enemy? When the architecture of your mind is fundamentally misaligned with the life you're trying to live? Here's the truth that no one wants to hear. You can't fully escape this. Not completely. As long as you're human, your brain will replay painful memories. That's part of being alive, part of having a nervous system designed for survival, not serenity. But you can change your relationship to the process. First, understand that the memories aren't evidence. They feel like proof that you're broken, that your past defines you, that you're in danger. But they're not. They're evolutionary echoes. Your amygdala is doing its job, overprotecting you in a world that no longer requires that level of vigilance. Second, stop fighting the memories when they appear. Resistance strengthens them. When a painful memory surfaces at 3 a.m., instead of pushing it away, try this. Acknowledge it. There's that memory again. Don't engage with the content. Don't analyze it or argue with it. Just notice it like a cloud passing through the sky of your mind. This interrupts the reconsolidation loop. You're remembering the memory without adding new emotional intensity. Third, reconsolidate intentionally. If the memory won't leave you alone, recall it deliberately during the day in a calm state. Write about it. Talk about it with someone you trust. Add new context. That happened. It was painful. And I survived. I've grown since then. When you reconsolidate the memory in a safe state, you soften it. Fourth, recognize that healing isn't linear. Some nights will be worse than others. Some memories will haunt you for years. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human, and your brain is still trying to protect you the only way it knows how. And finally, have compassion for your mind. It's not trying to torture you. It's trying to save you. The fact that its methods are outdated, that they cause suffering in a world where saber-toothed tigers no longer prowl, that's not your fault. You inherited this system. You're doing the best you can with hardware designed for a different world. So tonight, when the memory comes, and it will come, remember this. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not cursed. You're the product of millions of years of evolution, equipped with a threat detection system so powerful that it won't shut off, even when the threats are only memories. Your brain replays painful memories at night because it thinks it's protecting you. The tragedy is that it's wrong. But the hope is that now you know. And knowledge, even if it doesn't stop the loop, changes the meaning of the suffering. You're not a victim of your mind. You're a conscious being trapped in an ancient machine, and every night you survive that ambush is evidence of your resilience. The dark science of nocturnal memory isn't a story about weakness. It's a story about survival. And you're still here. That's the only proof you need.